The anatomy of a horse's digestive tract is similar to that of a human. Understanding the digestive tract anatomy of a horse can allow us to understand how feed is processed in the horse's body. This can allow us to improve the ways in which we feed horses. The first region of a horse's GI tract is the mouth. The mouth is the region where the horse will acquire its food. The horse will use its teeth as well as its tongue and lips to grab the food and masticate to break the food into smaller pieces. There are also enzymes in the mouth, such as salivary amylase, produced by salivary glands, that help begin to digest carbohydrates. Once done in the mouth, the food will travel down through the esophagus and head towards the stomach. The esophagus is represented here by string cheese. The esophagus is a long muscular tube that propels food down to the stomach through peristaltic movements. The stomach is represented here by an apple. Once the food reaches the stomach will physically distend and the food is mixed around through the stomach contractions. Additionally, enzymes such as hydrochloric acid and pepsinogen that will be converted to pepsin are released from cells in the stomach lining and will aid in the breakdown of the food. Proteins are the macromolecules broken down the most in the stomach. Once the food has been processed in the stomach long enough, it has become chyme and is ready to be released. The chyme will now enter the duodenum, the first part of the small intestine. The small intestine is represented by berry blue jello. Secretin and cholecystokinin are hormones released in the duodenal mucosa to buffer the acidic food entering the small intestine or to digest the chyme. Additionally, enzymes are released from the pancreas, such as pancreatic amylase, pancreatic lipase, and peptidases that help break down carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. The pancreas is represented here by a piece of beef jerky. The food continues to pass through the small intestine, traveling down to the jejunum, the second part of the small intestine, and then to the ileum, the last part of the small intestine. The chyme will be broken down to its simplest parts, be absorbed into the cells of the small intestine, and supply the body with energy for proper function. Anything that has not yet been absorbed will travel into the cecum and large intestine or colon. This is represented by grape jello. Now we have entered the hindgut where alloenzymatic digestion and water reabsorption will occur. The cecum is a blind sac that allows for fermentation by microbes. The microbes will break down more of the feed and produce vitamins and volatile fatty acids. After the cecum, any remaining chyme will travel through the right ventral colon, then the left ventral colon, then the left dorsal colon, then the right dorsal colon, transverse colon, and descending colon. The descending colon runs towards the rectum. Fermentation by microbes will occur throughout the colon, and gas can accumulate in the large intestine from the volatile fatty acids. This gas must be released from the animal to prevent colic. The last part of the digestive tract is the rectum and the anus. The rectum will absorb any remaining water from the large intestine and form the shape of the feces. The feces will then be expelled through the anus. There are other anatomical structures that we passed while discussing how food travels through the GI tract. So let's go back and talk about some of these. The trachea is a structure that sits parallel and dorsal to the esophagus. The trachea is represented here by Slim Jim beef sticks. It has C-shaped cartilaginous rings that allow for esophageal distension into the membranous portion of the trachea when the horse eats a large bite of food. The trachea is the airway that connects to the two lungs and allows for oxygen to pass down through inhalation and carbon dioxide to pass through exhalation. The lungs are represented by red bell peppers. The heart sits between the lungs. The heart is responsible for pumping deoxygenated blood to the lungs and oxygenated blood to other tissues and cells in the body. The heart is represented by a yellow bell pepper. The phrenic nerve is a nerve that originates in the cervical vertebrae, passes down by the heart, and attaches to the diaphragm and allows for movements of the diaphragm needed for breathing. The phrenic nerve is represented by spaghetti noodles, and the diaphragm is represented by strawberry pocky sticks. The spleen is an organ that lies near the stomach. It's represented by a date. The spleen helps produce white blood cells and other immune cells that fight off infection. Additionally, red blood cells that have been in circulation for a while are recycled in the spleen. Another important organ is the liver. The liver is represented by a tortilla. The liver represents deoxygenated blood coming from the digestive system organs and brings it back to the liver, where it's filtered with oxygenated blood from the aorta. The liver creates bile and will transport it to the small intestine to digest fats. Unlike humans and some other animals, the horse does not have a gallbladder to store bile. As previously discussed, the pancreas is an organ whose cells release enzymes that will enter the duodenum and help break down the chyme that is entered into that region. The pancreas also contains hormone-secreting cells that can secrete hormones such as insulin to lower blood sugar levels. The kidneys help filter blood and absorb osmotically active solutes and water. Urine is produced in the kidneys and travels through the ureters into the bladder. The kidneys are represented by pot stickers, the ureters are candy canes, and the bladder is a lime. The bladder stores the urine until it's ready to be expelled from the body. So today we've gone over the digestive tract and some other major organs in the body, and I hope that you learned some new information.